My name's Kai and I'm with D&J Comics, and today we're going to be talking about Mr. Terrific. It's possibly smarter as Batman, maybe tough as Superman. Let's find out why DC's most underrated hero is terrific. Who actually is Mr. Terrific? Played by Eddie Gothegi. So like you all, just saw the James Gunn trailer, and I must say, I am super surprised that they're going to be using one of DC's most underutilized heroes, Mr. Terrific. We're going to talk about Holt's origin stories, feats, power levels, and what makes him compete against everyone's favorite heroes. Yeah, even the guy with the pointy ears. Spectre 54, created by John Ostrander and Tom Mandrake, is actually the first appearance of Michael Holt. When they originally came up with the story, it was originally envisioned that he would be kind of like this street level hero. So our story starts with Michael on a bridge. He just lost his wife, brother, and unborn son. At this point in the story, our hero is contemplating suicide. So Holt had an argument about religious values right before his wife actually dies. He actually feels responsible for her death. So while Michael is on the bridge, it's about to get robbed by a bunch of kids and teenagers. And he says, basically, I don't care. Maybe I don't want to live. Because he's having these depressive and suicidal thoughts, he actually draws in Spectre. Spectre's like, I know times are rough right now, but murder's still murder. Holt basically says, look, I've got money, I've got cars, I'm educated, I have this successful business, but nothing equates to the loss of my wife. So basically Spectre's like, hey, you know, Holt, you really remind me of one of my old friends. And it winds up actually being the first Mr. Terrific, Terry Sloane. So no deep dive would be complete unless we actually talked about the first Mr. Terrific. Terry is eerily similar to Michael. Both child geniuses, both run successful businesses. Terry actually gets bored of how everything in life kind of comes easy to him. So he gets in his car and fully drives on to this bridge and plans to kill himself when he actually sees this woman jumping off. So he gets out the car, saves this lady, and then she just totally unloads on him. She's actually depressed about her brother, who's changed. He's running around with these gangs. And Terry's like, all right, well, yeah, I'll help you. See, this is Terry's call for justice. So like every good story, Terry defeats the mob boss. He goes on to fight crimes for years and establishes fair play. After World War II, he kind of stops doing the whole superhero thing and becomes a professor. But his arch nemesis, Spirit King, whom supposedly was killed by Spectre, he sees stealing something. He goes to the JSA meeting. Not really, kind of distant, not really talking to everybody, and he starts talking about it. But the moment they start asking for more detail, he like tightens up and kind of gets defensive because he thinks, hey, I can catch this guy. This is my nemesis. I can still do this. This big crash happens and everybody finds Terry dead. Superheroes are in this frenzy trying to figure out who exactly killed Terry because it wasn't really obvious at first. So they eventually do find out, and I'm going to be the first one to say, guys, they do not handle this well, like, at all. But we're going to go ahead and wrap up this Mr. Terrific, and we're going to go back to our main story involving Michael Holt. So basically, Spectre tells him this story about his friend, and it really gives Michael some sense of purpose to help fill that void that he has right now. And there are a bunch of kids that are still coming after Michael, and Spectre basically says these souls have committed crimes, they should be judged, and Michael's like, hey, they deserve a fair chance, they actually haven't killed anybody, let's give them a shot, let's be fair. And that starts Michael Holt's fair play. So Spectre kind of does this in order to help him build a reputation as well. This is really the beginning of Michael Holt's story. Later on, they do kind of add a little bit more details to his origins, kind of rewrite him, Michael Holt, a little bit to give him a little bit more depth. We really don't see Michael until later on in the JSA series, issue number 5, and it's wholly surrounded around this character named Sand, who's kind of having issues with his meta powers. But if you are interested, JSA number 5, you can go and check that out in the readings. Briefly, Holt's in there, and he kind of introduces himself to JSA, and they're like, all right, come back later, for sure. So he winds up being kind of like a JSA reserve at this point. And so after they meet Holt, they kind of like, you know, zip off, and Holt's basically like, it's a pretty cool exit. That's kind of his moment talk about when he gets a little bit more depth in JSA number 11. In issue 11, we really get an exclusive look of a couple of things that make Holt really special. We get to see the T-Spears, we get to see different aspects of his leadership, and the TLDR, guys, is they're on this mission pretty much because this hero is kidnapped and this villain is basically using the hero's powers to control other nations. We get our first look at the T-Spears and one of, I think, Holt's most underrated, not talked about traits, and it would be his leadership. He is an exceptional leader. They basically meet Holt on this island because their objective is to save the metahuman. Now, the other mission going on is to stop this other villain named Exant, who is actually Hank Hall, but that's more of in the Dove and Hawk storyline, so I'll let you guys go and read that. But if you know, you know. They meet Holt on this island very close to where the mission's objective point is, and Holt goes on and already has infiltrated the facility. He already has a plan. He's already assessed his teammates and giving them use cases for their powers in order for the mission to be successful. This is the first true glimpse of, I would say, Michael's intelligence and leadership that really makes him special. The events that happen from 11 on lead to the climax in 27. The Hawkman comes back and is like, hey, I want my old chair back. I'd like to be the JSA chairman. But they're like, well, this is a democracy, Hawkman, so let's put it up to a vote. To all our surprise, including Michael's, they actually wind up voting for Michael. Well, you know, we all know Michael was going to win that vote. And you'll see as we talk about Michael a little bit more, he's not a person that strives for leadership. He's not a person that strives for power, but he's constantly being asked by his peers to be in a position of power. So this reminds me of a Plato quote that I just remember growing up. Only those who don't seek power are qualified to hold it. We're going to talk about the next promotion that he actually gets. Some time goes by, he winds up being chairman until after Infinite Crisis event, and at this point, guys, the JSA is kind of like a shell of itself. He winds up leaving that position. Alan, the first Green Lantern, is actually what they call the White King, part of this organization called Checkmate. But some things happen, arguments happen due to unnecessary killing. Alan just basically says, hey, you know, I don't think we should be killing people, that it's not really necessary. And he gets into it with the Black Queen and their group. In order to avoid political sabotage of the newly formed Checkmate as it is right now, he does eventually step down, and this opens up the door for Holt. Holt is approached and asked to become a leader. And again, he doesn't know about accepting the position. He doesn't really want it. Because he's romantically involved with the Black Queen Sasha, this kind of causes a conflict of interest for our Mr. Fairplay. And eventually Power Girl does take over his JSA chairman spot as well. But let's move on to the second origin. This one is a little bit darker, if you ask me, because he actually witnesses his wife die this time. And she basically says, I want you to continue to make this world a better place. He attends his wife's funeral and their unborn son. He starts believing in the only thing he has left, which is science. And unfortunately, after a couple of experiments, there are some failures, and he's at a real low point now. Again, he's ready to kill himself, loss of hope, when his son appears and basically says, hey dad, we need you to continue to live because of the things that you're going to do for the future. And in this storyline, he has a relationship with Power Girl. So I know what you're all going to ask. How's the son still alive? Well, to make a long story short, goodness granny just kind of saves the kid while he's like a fetus in his mother's womb and basically raises him up. And that's a whole nother story. If you guys would like to read a little bit more, that's going to be Mr. Terrific's only standalone series, New 52. I think it went up to like 8 or 9 issues. Holt has no idea that his son had actually existed and lived. So he definitely finds some newfound hope and later develops all his technologies that we see later on. Alrighty guys, so everybody's favorite part, we are going to do a power level breakdown. So how strong is Mr. Terrific. Well, sorry to break it to you guys, Mr. Terrific doesn't really have any powers, but he is basically the peak of what a human can be. Olympian level strength, peak endurance, conditioning, agility, and he's got genius intellect, guys. You remember everything. And on top of that, he's got 14 PhDs. You know, only 14. He also has his signature T-mask, his T-spears, and let's not forget his combat capabilities. The man has mastered several martial arts. So we're going to talk about some of the tech that he uses. So he develops this technology where he can actually go into dimensional rifts. And let's not forget, guys, his T-mask makes him invisible for all technologies, except for Red Tornado, and there's another exception. Pretty much everyone else. And when you compare his tech to a certain Cape Crusader, though the funny part is Batman does actually wind up buying out his company and kind of making their own T-spears. The T-spears are the GOAT people. They're goated. The T-spears help him do all these impossible things. They actually would give him light, or propulsion, I should say. Each one of these T-spears has AI capabilities. So a way to think about it, each one that he has their own personality in a sense, their own self-awareness and existence. So they're able to operate independently, but still follow his commands. He can make tons of hollow projections, even if he's unable to move. He's also able to provide medical support. Did you guys know that Mr. Terrific actually performed a surgery? And we're not talking about any surgery. He performed a TMR. He learns this on the fly by reading a book. That's how intelligent he is. And he does this for the first Green Lantern, Alan Scott. Back to the T-mask, he's able to avert Brother Eye's surveillance. So he's actually able to complete missions that other heroes can't. And we see that in this panel over here to the right. As you can see, Black Lightning gets caught and Michael's like, don't worry, I'm invisible, I got this. And this is actually part of a bigger plan where Batman and Holt are working together, and while they're distracted with Batman, Holt is actually the one preventing Brother Eye from prevailing. So those heroes, they do work together, but they each have things that make them unique. So after all the things we've mentioned, how does Michael possibly stack compared to some of our favorite heroes? I mean, he does have Olympian level strength. His intellect is off the charts. And we look at his speed and stamina through peak human conditioning. So when we say peak human conditioning, who else are we talking about in that category? Well, you have Batman, Green Arrow, Dick Grayson, Huntress, Tim Drake, Jason Todd. We'll put an asterisk, Talia Ghul. Another asterisk, Catwoman, and Deadshot. But out of all those names I mentioned, time we have the Batman talk, guys. Let's compare Mr. Terrific and Batman. When we look as far as strength, we gotta give it to Batman, because Batman has mastered more martial arts. Stamina and speed, we're gonna give it to Batman, because, I mean, have you seen those muscles? Yeah. Intellect. So we're gonna give this to Mr. Terrific. Why is that? Well, what we've learned is that he's not someone that actively seeks power. So when we say he's the third smartest man,
who do you think wrote that list?
If he is world's smartest man, would he ever admit it? Alright, Team Gotham. So I know by now, pretty hurt. But in the comments, I want you guys to discuss this theory that I'm throwing out there. So if we were to do a side-and-side comparison of Batman and himself, I think it'd be a pretty interesting and worth engaging conversation. But alas, we're going to get to our last hero. And that's Superman. So let's talk about how Mr. Terrific could utilize some of his technology to defeat him. T-spears. The T-spears can actually generate kryptonite gas, and that would make this battle with Mr. Holt pretty interesting. And also, don't forget Holt's molecular cloaking would pretty much make him invisible to Superman's X-ray vision. But all in all, if we were to do a strength by strength comparison, speed by speed comparison, wouldn't be a conversation. But feel free to add your comments. I'd like to know what you guys think in the comments about this conversation involving Superman versus Mr. Terrific. Let me know what you think. Also, guys, this is our first video, but please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you guys for staying till the end. I appreciate all your feedback. Let me know in the comments what you think. I'd like to continue to make videos for you guys. Keep your feet on the ground and your eyes on the stars. Excelsior, my fellow nerds. Till next time. Kai out.